yourself, or you can never say how you really feel. Until now, yeah. When it's sundown, my mind is on the rundown. Now they feeling like my happiness is on the come down. But when I speak to you, I feel like it's a touchdown. Finally found me someone I can really trust now. I always have so much to say, but no one to say it to. If I can talk to you today, I know I can make it through. So let's have this conversation, like a radio station. So let's have this conversation, like a radio station.
It's finally Friday, and it's time for the conversation with Maria Byrd.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd, and I'm super excited about today's show because we have with us a very special guest. He is a native of Omega, Georgia, and the middle child of 7 total children from both parents. He is a graduate of Tift County High School, Savannah State University, with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, and has studies from Webster University Graduate School. He served 5 years in the U.S. Army National Guard and has worked as a federal government contractor for the past 20 years. He is a 12-year partner of the Harvest Tabernacle Church under the leadership of Apostle Travis and Pastor Stephanie Jennings, where he serves as an elder, also an executive board member, and also serves on the Hype Youth Board. He is happily married to his college sweetheart and best friend, Elder Velva Johnson, of which they have been married for 17 years and together share 2 beautiful children, Caleb and Cameron. Please help me welcome to the show my very special guest, Elder Juan Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited about being here, though.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yes.
You know, being here with you, all excited. You know, this conversation with Maria Byrd.
Yes, I'm excited to have this
great.
conversation. So, Elder, before we get started, can you just tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Well, you know, you mentioned a lot of it.
Yes,
I'm from a small town called Omega, Georgia.
Yes.
It's a one traffic light town, you know. What good can come out of Omega? No. But you know, I'm a loyal member and loyal partner of the Harvest Tabernacle Church, under the leadership of Apostle Travis Jennings. Absolutely love him, appreciate him, and honor him. Pastor Stephanie, those are my spiritual parents. You know, I've been a partner for 12 years now, and came in there not knowing the direction I wanted to go in. And you know, Apostle Jennings spoke over my life and just stretched me to who I am today. You know, and I'm a father, I'm a husband to my best friend from college, Velva. You know, I can tell you some stories about her, but no, that's just who I am. You know, I enjoy sports. I enjoy, you know, playing golf. You know, I enjoy just being a blessing to people. You know, something the Tiger Hood. No, just doing being a blessing to people, and I'm excited. I'm excited about being here. Just excited about what God is doing, and you know, the levels that God has taken me to since I've been a part of the Harvest Tabernacle Church.
Elder, yes, I love it. My elder is in the building.
Yeah, we're here.
Well, Elder, you know, we have so many great, amazing things to talk about for today, but I'm super interested in knowing if we were to go back in time, what type of child would you say you were?
That's a loaded question, Maria. No, you know, I was one of those kids. You know, I was a very inquisitive kid. You know, I asked a lot of questions. I grew up, like I said, in a small town, so it was a lot of family.
Yes,
there's a lot of family there. I was mischievous.
Ooh,
you know, I was a very mischievous kid. I did some things that I wouldn't, you know, encourage kids to do. I was one of those kids who always wanted to know why. You know, not that I would question my parents like, why you do this, but I would ask the question why. You know, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, you know, so I didn't know anything about the move of the Holy Ghost. Matter of fact, we call it, when people get happy, we say we know when people start shouting, we call it getting happy in the Baptist church. And, you know, my uncle would come escort him out the church. So I grew up in this small church, you know, and it was like a lot of family members there. And I can remember being in Bible study. There were like 8 of us there. But I remember being in Bible study and one of the deacons was teaching. I was one of those kids who I'm analytical.
Yes.
So I like to analyze things a lot. he was explaining to us, you know, in Genesis, God created the heaven and the earth. And,
Yes.
you know, so I'm like, well, in science, I learned about Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. So
on.
where they come from, you know?
Right.
And, you know, and I would ask questions like that. And I was, you know, I was one of those kids, you know, I grew up with very humble beginnings.
Yes.
Very humble beginnings, you know, growing up like that. When I say humble beginnings, for, you know, I mean poor.
Come on.
So, but I didn't know I was poor because everybody around me was poor. So we thought we was living good until I
Right.
knew otherwise. But, you know, and growing up like that, you know, I always wanted to fit in.
Yes.
You know, so I dealt with a lot of pride.
Come
You know,
on, Elder.
growing
Come
up,
on.
no, a lot of
let's go
pride.
there. Let's
I
go
would,
there.
yeah, you know, I would, you know, put up these fronts, you know, try to cover up a lot of things, but you know, and when you do that, you know, that builds up a lot. That builds up a sense of pride, and you try to hide a lot of things from people
on,
because you put up this facade of who you really are or what you really have.
better teach.
You know, so so it was you know, my childhood was different, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I learned a lot. You know, I grew up in a home with both my mother and father, but it wasn't a healthy environment. You know,
Elder, this is good because this is so prophetic. Because I was going to ask you, you know, to tell us about some of your defining moments. But keep going, stay right there in that vein.
Got you. So what it was, you know, both my mom and dad was in the house. I know a lot of times now we hear like the single mom, the single dad. But you know, there are some families who have both mom and dad in the house, but it's not a healthy environment. You know, both my mom and dad dealt with alcoholism, so a lot of times, you know, me and my brother was kind of on our own. So we learned independency early. Like, you know, early, you know, how to cook, take care of ourselves, you know, do certain things. So, you know, with me being, and you read in the bio, the middle child of 7 children,
Wow.
you know, my mom had kids before she met my dad, and my dad had kids before he met my mom. So I have older siblings.
Yes.
And then from my mom and dad together, I'm the oldest. So you look at the makeup of me being a middle child of all the kids, but being the oldest.
Right.
You know, so I was all messed up. I'm trying to protect, and I really want y'all to validate
Right.
me. So I'm like, how you protect and want validation from the ones you try to protect? So you know, I that's growing up. You know, I dealt with all those things. So you know, I would attach to friends who I thought had more. I would attach to people who I thought who would do right by me. You know, who would cover me, because I was always looking for that. And when I talk about being mischievous, I had some of those friends. We did a lot of mischievous things growing up.
Come on,
But one thing I can say, even growing up in there, and I did a lot of things, and I didn't have a lot of parental guidance, I always had a level of respect for people who were older than me. You know, now I may get in trouble. I'm going to do some bad stuff. You know, I can recall a time, you know, a friend of mine, he lived with his grandmother. And she told him, you don't hang out. My nickname back home is Dickie.
Yes.
She said, I don't want you hanging out with that Dickie, because she thought I was a bad kid. And I probably was. But I would bully him and influence him. You know, you're going to go to the game room with me. I would do things like that. And because she told him not to hang out with me, I, you know, mischievous, no guidance, doing what I want to do, I went out there, you know, and just turned her water off. Like, outside of her house. You know, like, who does that? Like, and you know, so I would do things like that, man. You know, as a kid growing up, and there was many things that happened in my life. You know, growing up in a small town, you see a lot, you learn, you desire a lot, and you wish for a lot.
Yes.
You know, you see things that other people have, and you see a life on television that you desire to have. So I used to, like I said, ask those questions. I was like, you know, why couldn't I be Theo Huxtable? You know,
right.
Like why I had to have these parents? Why couldn't I have, you know, Claire and Cliff? You know, the perfect family.
Yes.
You know, but that wasn't God's plan for me. That wasn't God's plan for me, and it wasn't until I got older that I looked back at my childhood and understood why certain things happened. You know, and understood why I had the life that I had, or the path I had to take. You know, that was a course that God laid out for me.
Yes.
So I had to take it.
You had to take it.
I had to take it, so I couldn't avoid it. So there were many, you know, defining moments, dealing with the pride, and dealing with the, you know, being the middle child and the older child, and dealing with all these different things growing up. You know, I would often ask God why.
Why?
You know, because I wanted to know why. Why couldn't I be someone else?
Yes.
And I can recall, you know, when I got older.
Come on, Elder.
When I got older, I would me and my brother and I kind of grew up in the house together. So we were the closest out of all of my siblings.
Right.
So imagine that. Now, I got older brother on my dad's side, older brother and sister on my mom's side, but they always asking me for advice. And so I would, you know, like, how you asking me? But you older than me, you know, why you coming to me? But I understood then. I understood now what God was doing then. He was developing and training me,
Yes.
you know, to be able to give someone sound counsel, to be able to talk with someone, talk them through different things. So, you know, I knew all my brothers and sisters, even though we didn't all live together. But, you know, one of the defining moments is I had a younger sister.
Come on.
I must have been about 9 or 10. My parents had a younger sister. Her name's Courtney, and only met her once. They brought her home, and a week later, I didn't see her again. You know, so they had gave my sister up for adoption, and for a while, I was like, why would you just? I always asked her, why would you just give our sister up? You know, like how can you just give up your child like that? So it kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth towards my parents. But you know, when I got older, I understood that there's no way they could. I mean, we weren't even making it with just me and my brother in there. So you know, that was one of the moments in my life that kind of helped, you know, create a character, create a personality of like, you know, I'm missing something. You know, I'm always
come on.
I'm missing something. Even now, you know, my sister who lives in Orlando, we talk, and she's like, you know, have you ever had a chance to find our sister? And you know, and I've tried. I reached out to people, you know, but never have done it. You know, never have been able to successfully find her. And you know, so that was one of the defining moments in my life as an adolescent.
Right.
You know, I'm 10 years old dealing with that, and you know, and as I got older, you know, my mom passed away. You know, I was in college, and you know, and my family I didn't grow up with the family where we come home and everybody say, how was your day?
Yes.
No, you know, my dad worked, my mom worked, we just come home, whatever. Everybody just going about their own way. So we didn't have those sit down dinner moments.
Right.
You know, my dad didn't go outside and throw the ball with me. He didn't tell me about the birds and the bees. He didn't tell me about, you know, you need to go to college or there was none of that.
Yes.
You know, but I thank God for the people he put in my life that were, you know, examples.
Yes.
And they were there to help cover me and help guide me. So I was on a road, but I was going off path a lot, you know. And so my mom passed away when I was in college. You know, I'm a sophomore in college, and even though I didn't talk to my mom like every day, you know, before she passed away, when I was in high school, she got really sick. You know, my mom got really sick and actually moved back with my grandmother. And so, you know, when that happened, I couldn't just stay with my dad, you know, just me and my brother, and I moved with my aunt. So, and you know, and I would see my mom every day because right up the street, a small town.
Yes.
And I would see her every day, but you know, it was never like that mother-son relationship. Right. You know what I mean? So, even though we were there, you know, a lot of times it was just like, that's just mom, you know. So I didn't really have like that loving relationship, and I loved her. I love her. But when she passed away, it was amazing how God had started preparing me for it, and I didn't know it at the time because I wasn't saved. Like, you know, a friend of mine, her mom, Lady Hayward, she always tell me, you weren't saved then like you saved now.
Right.
You weren't saved like you think you saved. That's what she tell me. So you know, I knew who God was. I had, you know, we call it having a form of godliness.
Right.
You know, so but all the time I had a lot going on, you know, in college and dealing with a lot at the time, and you know, trying to find my way and do all these different things, and then my mom passed away. So I was like, oh my God, you know, how do I deal with this? I want to just give up, you know. I just want to, you know, because even though I didn't talk to her every day, I lost that. So here I am, lost a sister, lost a mom, you know, and then, you know, even in high school, you know, before I even went off to college, you know, I was in the military and I was in basic training, and I ended up getting a girl pregnant. You know, I got her pregnant, and you know, I'm on this path now to becoming a father. And the only reason I even went to the military was to have a backup plan in case college didn't work out.
Come on.
That was the only reason I did
backup
it.
plan?
I need a backup plan. Like, Lord, if college don't work out, because no one prepared me for it. No one prepared me for it. If college don't work out, what am I going to do? And so I had that as a backup plan. I got this girl pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, now I can't go to college. You know, it's amazing how we look at things that happen in our life and we start Xing off all the things we can't do now.
Right.
And I started Xing off everything. So now in my own plan, I'm like, yo, I'm just going to go full-time military. Got to take care of this kid. And then all of a sudden, she had a miscarriage. I'm dealing with another loss.
Wow.
You know, so I on and on and on. And then I, you know, when I start dealing with all this loss, and, you know, now I'm dealing with rejection and different things and, you know, abandonment. And I'm like, man, I started looking at my life, and I started looking at what I thought were like, great milestones in my life. I graduated high school. I'm the first of my parents' kids on both sides to graduate high school, but my dad didn't show up. I go to college, I graduate college. I'm the first kid to graduate college, the first one in a lot of my family, even extended family, to actually graduate college, but my dad didn't show up. I find my bride, I find my wife. This is a special moment in my life, and I get married, and my dad wasn't there. So I'm dealing with all this, and like, man, now I'm dealing with rejection, and I don't have a father figure. This dude never show up for anything. But God began to put people in my life. He began to place things in my life and just show me different things, and people who would just nurture me and just speak into my life. And I didn't know much about all that then. I didn't know what people were saying, because at a young age, I was told by my cousin, who was a minister at the time. I was told by my cousin, he said, God had his hand on your life. And I didn't know what that meant. I'm thinking, oh, okay, God protected me. Okay, cool. That's what's up. God protected me. He covered me. But I didn't know that meant God had his hand on my life. He was orchestrating things. So as I was going down this path called life, which I knew absolutely nothing about, but just living, because what I saw growing up, I just knew that's what I was going to do. So, back in my hometown, the country, you go back, you got the people that's sitting under the tree, drinking the beer, they're just hanging out. The old dudes telling jokes, and they talk. And I used to go over there and sit there, because I was always interested in older people, like, what they're going to say. I want to learn something, I want to know something that the other kids don't know. Right. And so that's what I saw myself doing. That's exactly what I saw myself doing, but that's not what God saw me doing. Yes. And so when I had that encounter with God and understood that God has so much more for my life, I was like, all of this stuff was done on purpose, for a purpose. Yes, on purpose, for a purpose. On purpose, for a purpose. And I love it, because even in the midst of that, you always had respect for your elders. Always. You would have known that God would have raised you up to now be an elder. Glory to God. Glory to God. I wouldn't have known that. I tell you that now. Definitely not. Definitely. Wow. Yeah. So and it's amazing, because since I've been at the Harvest Tabernacle Church, like I said, Apostle Jennings is an awesome, great spiritual father, a great example. Yes. I can go on and on, but I don't want to kill the whole show, because we'll be talking about him all day. But absolutely love him, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
Wow.
Absolutely wouldn't be here.
Our apostle.
Oh, for real, like even I'm connected. I'm a son. Yes. Even this morning I called. And I just wanted to hear his voice, because he's been here. He's been there. He's done this. Yes. And if God is, as an apostle, he goes and open up doors. He goes and do things. Then we can go in behind him.
Absolutely.
But he has done this. So I was like, hey, I need to know what's going on, and I just needed to hear his voice. I didn't have to have a drawn out conversation. I didn't need to go him to take me in sackcloth and ashes and we go through this. No, I just needed to hear his voice. And just to get his voicemail and hear his voice calmed my spirit.
Yes, and see, to me that is so critical, and I even believe that that's a revelation for someone that's listening or watching, is that oftentimes we go through rejection, we go through these things from our childhood, because our biological father potentially dropped the ball. But that's why it's critical to connect with your spiritual father. Yes, because he will pick up the pieces. And some of our dads didn't even pick the ball up. Come on.
So for me, Apostle Jennings brought a brand new ball to the game for me. I didn't know anything.
Yes, wow. And Elder, you kind of touched on it regarding just your relationship with God, because that was actually going to be my next question. I wanted you to dive into that a little bit more, regarding how you didn't always live for God, but you overcame it.
No, I didn't, like I said, growing up in the Baptist church, I had a different perspective of who God was and what God was. I knew him to be God, but I didn't know him to be a Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nissi. I didn't know any of those godly names. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? So that whole thing was like foreign language to me. Yes. So I had an idea of who God was. I had a sense of who God was in my life. But I didn't always live for God. I grew up in the church, and I was one of those kids who was told, you gotta go to church. it was something drawing me to church. But it had to draw me to the Baptist church because that was the only church around the area that we knew. I mean, we had no other church. So
Right.
I wasn't drawn to a Pentecostal move. I wasn't drawn to a holiness move, apostolic, prophetic. I didn't know anything about that. As a matter of fact, even growing up, you know, I was a part of this male course. Yeah, you know, he was a little note. It's part of this male course, and we did all these little acapella singers and stuff. And we got invited. They like the little boy group from Omega, Georgia, and we would go sing. And I recall we went to this church, and I never forget it. It's called St. John Holiness Church. I would never forget this church in my life because it scared me. You know, I didn't know anything about speaking in tongues. I didn't know anything about the laying on the hands. I didn't know anything about
Right.
putting olive oil on me. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what olive oil was.
Right.
Usually cooked with Crisco.
Right.
So I didn't know any of that stuff. And so, you know, we're there and they call us up to the front for prayer. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go up there. And she began to just lay hands on everybody. It was a female pastor and she was just speaking in tongues. And I am in a full out cry.
Yes.
Not crying out for God. I'm crying out to get out of there because I'm scared. And she was laying hands on people and people falling out. And I never forget my friend. I'm holding his hand, you know, and he's like, I'm shaking because I'm scared. I don't know if he's shaking because the Holy Ghost or what. But she lay hands on and he falls. But he's holding my hand. I'm like, dude, get up, man. You know, you just can't be falling out. So, you know, I seeing those things growing up, it scared me. So it kind of warped my image of, you know, who God was in my life for a minute, because I was like, I don't think it'd take all that. But what I come to find out is that it took all that plus some.
Plus some.
It took all that plus some. Trust me.
Yes.
So yeah, I didn't, you know, and I went off to college. I didn't always live for God. I mean, I was when I was in college trying to fill this void, you know, and just trying to make this path because I wanted to be successful. That was my goal.
Right.
You know, I wanted to be able to be a provider for my family and the savior, give back and all these things, right? But I was missing that whole God movement. Now, but when I went to college, I was the dude walking around with that cross hat on, you know, like, because growing up in the Baptist church, you know, you know, I didn't know anything about the whole movement. My cousin, I have an aunt who I say she's real saved, you know, speaking in tongues and all that stuff when we was growing up. And so she would do all that, and we would go visit her, and I was like, I'm not going up in that room because they're gonna see something, you know.
Right, they're
but
gonna see something.
But because of her and because of my cousin, who was a minister, they introduced me to it even the more. Even after I was, you know, had that moment as a kid, they introduced me to it even more, and I began to embrace it.
Yes.
You know, I began to embrace, like, there's so much more to God than just the same sermon every Sunday.
Come on.
There's so much more to God than just, you know, me getting down on this chair and saying, you know, knee bent and body bowed. There's so much more to God than just saying, you know, there's so much more to it. And I was like, wow. Now that inquisitive kid in me starts saying, I want to know more. I want to know more. So, you know, before I went off to college, I started seeking God more, you know, having these little prayer moments with my cousin, you know, like really like, oh, I'm going to be saved. I'm going to be saved. I'm going to be a voice for Christ. And I remember going to college my freshman year, and I wore this hat, had a cross on it, right? I was like, yo, I'm all about God.
Yes.
I walk into my dorm room, freshman year, first day, orientation, and there's a girl in there. And I was like, hey, you know, who are you? She's like, I'm your roommate. I said, now, Lord, you know this cannot happen like this. But she's like, I'm your roommate's sister. I said, okay, thank God. So, you know, I was there, and like, I didn't have any accountability though. I didn't have any accountability. I was just out there. That's why it's so important to have a spiritual father.
Teach this.
That's so important to have someone you're accountable to and holds you accountable.
Yes.
And I didn't have that. So I began to look for it in different places. And so I connected with the choir.
Come on.
And this one I connected with the choir. And if anybody knows about a HBCU choir, my God.
Woo,
my God.
Testify.
No, I connected with the choir, and you know, we would go for our spring break and go on these tours, and you know, we sing. I mean, we would be singing, really crying out before the Lord, like in tears, and everybody's having this moment. Then we get back to the hotel, and everybody's drinking and having sex, and so I remember when I first joined, they had a little get together at one of the choir directors' house.
Yes.
And we're at this little apartment, and we're all in there, and they're having a party. So I'm thinking it's just a gathering. We're going to come, and we're going to, you know, sing Kumbaya. I'm really thinking this is going to be a really Holy Ghost move.
Yes.
And we get there, and these guys they're drinking. They're doing all kind of things. And I'm sitting in a corner, nervous and scared. And the whole time I'm like, Jesus is going to walk in this door and kill everybody in about 5 minutes. But I was too scared to leave. I wasn't bold enough to get up and walk out, so I just sat there and I never said anything. And so what happened is I started acquiescing to it. You know, I started having those moments where like, hey, we're gonna do the party, we're gonna do this, we're gonna hang out, you know, so and I didn't, like I said, I didn't have any accountability. I had nobody to tell me I was wrong, because everybody I see that's supposed to be living for Christ now, they're doing the same thing.
Right.
So I just wanted to fit in. Here I am again. I wanted to
Testify.
fit in.
Testify.
So I just fit in. But God began to put certain people, I began to connect with certain people who were really saved. And one of them ended up being Miss Velva Jones.
Oh, yes.
No, and wow, I meant like truly saved and truly, and you know, and out of all of that, I was like, she like me, you know, she like me, and we started, you know, dating, and she would tell me about, you know, coming to church every Sunday, coming to prayer on Saturdays, going to Bible study every Wednesday. Now, mind you, I grew up in the Baptist church, so we went first, third, and fifth Sunday. So that every Sunday thing, it was a struggle for me, but it kept me in a place with God that I had never been before. So now I'm experiencing these new things in God. I'm experiencing the new moves of God, and how God is, you know, healing, and you know, and just delivering people. And, you know, I was like, oh my God, man. And I started having a new appreciation for not only God, but for the men of God. Yes. Because you know, Pastor Carswell at the church that my wife grew up in, he was the first person I really said, that's my pastor. He was the first person I really said, that's my pastor. And I would have a new appreciation for him. I wanted to like serve and make sure that you're good and things like that. I didn't know then that what God was preparing me for.
Come on.
I really didn't know. So no, I wasn't always with God. There was a lot of times I went away, but God always put people in my path that got me back on track.
I love it. You know, this reminds me of the scripture that says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And when we begin to get in the steps of God, when we begin to follow that path, then that's when your wife came to you.
I mean, no, my wife, that's my girl. That's my girl.
Come on, a praying
For
woman.
real. Yeah, no. She, when I say saved, like she was really saved. And I mean, she was one of those people who walk around, y'all gonna go to hell, y'all. And I'm like, why are you so radical? Right. You know, but you have to be radical for Christ.
That's it.
Because the people who are not a part of the kingdom, they just as radical about telling you that your God is wrong.
Come on.
So why can't we be just as radical about telling you how right our God is and who our God is?
Yes.
And she was like that. I was not like that. You know, that was not my temperament. Like, these people gonna punch you in your face, girl. You know, you can't just be telling people they're going to hell. You know, so no, but God orchestrated that, and because of that, you know, I met my wife.
Yes,
I met my wife.
I love it. And Elder, you know, just considering all of your life experiences, your life journey, you know, what is your purpose? What has God called you to do?
You know, it's amazing. I mean, I can remember somebody asked me that a long time ago, and I was like, what do you mean purpose? You know, I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. I don't know.
Right.
But you know, God has, you know, our purpose is really God's purpose for our life.
That's it.
And I know that sounds kind of like, oh, that's simple, but no, my purpose is my preordained purpose God has aligned for me. Now, what I know what I'm supposed to do for God, I know that God has set my course and has designed and developed and molded me into to be a protector, be a provider. Not only that, but to also be an assistant to the men and women of God, and to make sure I help preserve the voice. You know, a lot of times people just say, oh, I'm just doing this and I'm just doing that and I'm just you know, serving. And you are right, because the Bible said the greatest amongst them is the servant, and that's what really God has called me to be, a servant, a true servant. And I didn't know that at a young age. You know, I didn't know that growing up, because when I look back over my life, I see everything now, why these things happen to bring me to who I am today. So I embraced it. Like my apostle said, I drink the cup. You know, I drink the cup, and I walk in my calling as an elder. I walk in my calling as you know, I was a deacon at the Harvest Tabernacle Church. I walk in, and you know, it's something amazing about that, because the Holy Ghost had to whip me about that, because there were moments in my life that I mean, even now, the makeup of me, Juan, you know, I don't desire those things. You know, like I used to say, I don't need the title, I don't need that to do it. I'll just do it. But, you know, really those levels and those things that God gives us, we have to embrace them, because that gives us another level of authority. It's another level of authority.
Yes.
And you know, God has elevated me in so many areas. You know, in my career, in my home, in my marriage.
That's right.
So those levels of authority. So I had to learn to not just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," or "I'm not going to walk in that." But no, this is what God has purpose for you to do.
Whew.
So you got to go into that, and once you have done that and completed that, God has more for you to do. There's always more to God. We limit God to just this one assignment.
Yes.
You know, like, oh, I've been doing this for years, man. I'm a master at this. Well, you're a master at it. But the master of God hadn't promoted you or taken you to another level yet.
Yes.
So you need to continue to walk it out.
Continue to walk it out.
out.
Yes, you guys. OMG. Oh. Well, listen. We're getting ready to take a quick commercial break, but I don't want you to go anywhere. Make sure that you keep it locked right here. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd
So let's have this conversation.
on WIGO 1570 AM radio.
You can connect with Motivation at 11 a.m. Go to www.mariabird.org. You can sign up for her newsletter. Check out the latest from The Conversation. You can be the next guest, have your song featured, or donate to the cause. Learn about marketing opportunities. Check out the giveaways, special promotions, free tickets, and the latest from Maria Byrd Publications. Again, log on to www.mariabird.org. That's www.mariabird.org.
Delicious Delights announcement. Christie's Heavenly Peach Cobbler, where tasteful creations begin, is available to satisfy your appetite. Get your vegan-friendly cobbler today with a variety of flavors, including peach cobbler, strawberry cobbler, blackberry cobbler, cherry cobbler, and dough cobbler. To purchase your vegan-friendly cobblers today, please connect with Christy Barnes on Instagram at Christie's_cobbler. That's KRISTIS_cobbler. Also, call her at 404-579-4071.
Stop by Salon M. Lynn at their new Austell location, 2495 East West Connector, Suite 70, Austell, Georgia 30106. Shampoo, style, cuts, color, braiding, and so much more. Mention you learned about Salon M. Lynn on The Conversation with Maria Byrd and receive 20% off your first visit. Book an appointment today. Follow Salon M. Lynn on Instagram or call 678-214-5332. That's 678-214-5332.
Daddy, I'm scared. Can I come sleep with you tonight? I don't want to go.
What's the matter?
Because it's scary and I don't like the dark. And it's so darky.
Come on, KK. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. No, he didn't. Let me make this crystal clear. Open your ears. I ain't gon' get nowhere. As long as I'm stuck in that chair. Get up. I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. Listening to his she said. Holding on to the keepsake. I should be worried. I should be worried. I used to be scared of ghosts. They come out the closet. They come up from under your bed. I wonder what caused it. I used to tuck under my sheets. Thought that was real though. I migrate to mama room. Under the pillow, yeah. I would be wanting to curl up in mama's arms. Daddy told me don't be alarmed. God didn't give you a spirit of fear, That's the devil talking in your ear, Yeah. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. No, he didn't. Let me make this crystal clear. Open your ears. I ain't gon' get nowhere. As long as I'm stuck in that chair. Get up! I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. Listening to his she said. Holding on to the keepsake. I should be worried. I should be worried. I used to have stage fright. Somebody passed me the mic. I'm in the spotlight. You know I forgot right. Everything I rehearsed, I'm going blank. I got butterflies. I wish they would go away. Somebody help me, somebody help me, somebody help me. Gotta get in the moment. Gotta keep it going. crystal clear. Open your ears. I ain't gon' get nowhere. As long as I'm stuck in that chair. Get up. I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. I should be worried. Listening to his she said. Holding on to the keepsake. I should be worried. I should be worried.
God didn't give me a spirit of fear. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. I'm not scared of God. I don't wanna go home without you. Who is gonna take me home without you? I don't wanna go around without you. You don't wanna go home without me. I'll go home with you today. I'm not scared no more. Anything, I'm not scared no more. Gucci music.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd
So let's have this conversation.
on WIGO 1570 AM radio.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd. You just heard a powerful song, Shouldn't Be Worried by Luke G. Be sure to check it out. Delicious Delights announcement, Christie's Heavenly Peach Cobbler, where tasteful creations begin, is available to satisfy your appetite. Get your vegan-friendly cobbler today with a variety of flavors, including peach cobbler, strawberry cobbler, blackberry cobbler, cherry cobbler, and dough cobbler, just to name a few. Well, you guys, we are back with my very special guest, Elder Juan Johnson. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's been awesome.
Yes. Wow. Awesome. Well, Elder, before the break, OMG, you was really just breaking it down as it relates to your testimony and
Yes.
just your purpose in God, how the Lord has caused you to overcome in so many areas of your life. And, one of the things that the scripture says that I absolutely love is that you are to let others esteem you highly. And one of the ways that I want to esteem you highly is that I have seen you walk with our man of God, Apostle Travis Jennings, for over a decade, about 12.
Favor with the wind. So, those are some of the things that it requires to be an armor bearer. And like you mentioned, I've been serving my man of God, serving Apostle Travis Jennings for 12 years.
Come on.
And I've been a partner with the Harvest for 12 years. And just to share a little bit about that, because, I know a lot of people talking like, what is an armor bearer? I didn't know what that was either. I didn't understand that. I didn't quite grasp it, didn't understand what an armor bearer was. And I questioned it, the inquisitive kid in me questioned. And I remember we had just became partners with the Harvest Tabernacle Church,
Yes.
had just joined the church. And I remember the first time I visited Harvest was when we were at the storefront.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, man, it was awesome. And Prophet Jennings then
Yes.
prophesied over me and my wife, and I was like, wow, he is right on it. I didn't come from that.
Right.
I don't know about nobody prophesying, so I was like, I didn't come from that, but it was such an accurate word. It was right on point. I mean, and I didn't know him. I had never met him, and had never seen him. And so we visited,
Yes.
and this was like in 2005 when we moved here from DC, and then, visit other churches, and the Harvest Tabernacle moved to 1450 South DeShawn.
Yes.
And had that first service, that watch night service.
Yes.
And we came.
Wow.
We came, and I was like, wow, it was an awesome service. And I'll never forget that service because there was a couple got married that night. And we had stayed after, and I was like, what? I didn't get an invitation to this wedding. Why I gotta stay here? But no, got married tonight. And so, we started visiting more.
Yes.
So I knew God was pulling us there. And my wife, she was like, we need to join here. And I was like, no, we don't. We're gonna go to this Baptist church, and we're just gonna be good. She was like, we need to join here. So she knew.
Yeah.
She knew already, and we ended up joining. We joined the Harvest Tabernacle, and as soon as we joined, this is how I knew that I was right where God wanted me to be. This is how I knew. I know a lot of people, when I say this, people be like, I would have thought the opposite. as soon as we joined, I think a week or 2 weeks later, my wife lost her job. Now I was like, now this is crazy. Now I just made this move to get my family aligned with God, and this is what I wanted. Then my wife lose her job. So I said the devil is trying to stop me from getting somewhere. And I knew that I was connected to the right house, and not only that, connected to the right person. And I remember the 6 p.m. encounters that the church still has.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm not going to those. You know, it's 6 o'clock. I done been to the 10. I'm not going to that.
Come on.
And the week before, and this is amazing, the week before, I was out with some friends, and they're musicians, and one of them a pastor, and we was just talking, and I asked them, I said, man, what is an armor bearer? I asked them that because a friend of ours said that she had a close friend who was an armor bearer, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I had never heard of it. And I was like, and they started explaining it to me, and I was like, man, that's like some type of super deacon or something. I don't know what that is. That's a superhero deacon. I was like, man, I would never do all that. I was like, that's crazy. That's a lot. They just telling me things about the serving and the praying and covering, and the what it entails.
Yes.
Because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. Everybody see the and I don't know why people think it's so glamorous to carry the man or woman of God Bible and get them something to drink. They see that and they think that that's just it, but it was so much more to that. And so I was like, well, I could never do that. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Not that anybody had even asked me.
Right.
I'm just talking, and I decided to go to church that Sunday, because that was that Saturday.
Yes.
Go to church that Sunday, and I was walking. Church was over, and at the time, Prophet Jennings, he was walking down the aisle, and I'm getting ready to walk, like pretty much right after him to go out, because I was getting ready to leave, and he stops, and he says, Juan, and he called 2 other guys. He said, God told me in prayer that you are going to assist me. And this is what he said, and this is when I knew it was God, because he said, God told me. He said, not as armor bearers. The fact that he had to enunciate that,
right,
let me know then that's what I'm gonna be doing. He specifically said, not as armor bearers. And I had just said the day before, I would never do that.
Wow.
He said, not as armor bearers, but as assisting me at the altar. And one thing he did, and I was like, hey, I believe this to be a true man of God. This man spoke of my life, and I never met him 2 years prior to that. And so I trust him. Yes. I trust him. And I said, yes, sir. Whatever you say. And I started walking with him. And one thing I could say about Apostle, man, he stretched us. Yes. He showed us that there was so much more to us. There's so much more to that position than just what people think. There's so much more to that position than just, you getting some benefits from it. There's so much more to that. So he took us through it's like armor bearer boot camp. Yes. And I was like, wow. The learning part was just so amazing to me. Like he would invest in us. He would really invest in us and give us tools and things like, here's a book. Read this book. Do a book report on that book. These are days y'all need to be praying. Y'all need to have a fasting regimen. All these things were building up, and I'm like, oh my God. I think I probably had been on 2 fasts in my life before I went to the Harvest Seminary. Like, God on the truth, for real. So, it started to build up that thing that you kill off all this and start going after God more. Yes. And so, and as an armor bearer, you should have a fasting regimen. You should have a prayer life. You should have that willingness and drive to want to be able to see your man and woman of God succeed. You should be pushing their agenda. Yes. You should be pushing their agenda, covering them. And really covering them and understanding your assignment. Understanding your assignment and seeking out tools and nuggets that's going to help better you, to help be aware of what's going on. Because a lot of times we got to be, tapped into the spirit. It's spiritual. Even walking with Apostle, sometimes I would get complacent and oh, I'm good. I know what he's going to need. I'm good. I got everything laid out. Boom, 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 boom. It's a straight switch up. And I'm like, hold on now. What's going on? Straight switch up. But you have to be tapped into the spirit. See, I was moving in the flesh. I got it done. Is everything out? In the carnal, everything's good. But now we got a spiritual issue we got to deal with today. All this is off the table. We got to get prepared spiritually. So, and I remember I had been walking with him for 10 years at this point, and we was on a crusade. And, I'm looking at everything, checking everything out, and I got there before him, and he walks in and was like, I need this, that, and I was like, oh, I don't have it. He was like, this is spiritual, son. This is spiritual. And I think we lose, as armor bearers, sometimes we lose that focus that it's a spiritual thing. It's nothing, it's not a physical job. It's not an obligation. Wow. It's not an obligation,
That's good.
you know, but it is our level of obedience to our assignment.
Come
You
on.
know, we have to serve out of obedience and not out of obligation.
That's good.
Because you serving out of obligation, it becomes like a duty then, and you're gonna get burned out. You're gonna get tired. But it's a great calling. It's a great
Yes.
calling to be an armor bearer, and it's an awesome position. I would never stop serving him.
Yes.
You know, I would never stop. He taught me so much. You know, as an armor bearer, and one thing I learned, you know, serving under him and as an armor bearer and understanding my assignment, you know, God elevated me. A lot of things I said no to. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is now unto him that is able to do
Yes.
exceeding abundant
Come on.
above all you can ask or think.
Yes.
That key thing being above all you can ask or think. Now, some of the stuff that I have walked in life, I didn't ask for. And I was like, God, I didn't ask for this. Now, when you hear that scripture, you think like, oh, God's going to bless me beyond my wildest dreams.
Yes.
You know, I want this, but God's going to give me that. And then, but what about the things I never even thought of?
Wow.
I never even asked for? I ain't even know about.
Didn't even know about.
Didn't even know about. But God, you know, positioned me under Apostle Jennings to receive so much. And I would never stop serving him because I understand that those steps, you know, it's like steps on a ladder.
Yes.
And one thing I learned, God gave me a revelation about the ladder
Come on
in
and
my
share.
serving. In my serving. So when you look at a ladder, you know, the ladder is designed to take you up. You know, you go step by step and you elevate higher.
That's right.
So this ladder to me at that in the revelation symbolized life. All right. So I'm being elevated in life. You know, I start serving the man of God and then you know, I'm a deacon, I'm a step up, and then, you know, he trusts me with a project here and there, I'm another step up. So now we're building this trust, and boom, now I'm an elder. I'm all these steps up in the up this ladder. And but I never stopped doing those things that got me there. Never stopped doing those things that got me there because those are the steps that got me there. So why would I stop? But this is the thing. This is what showed me. Those steps are not only designed to take you higher, but those steps are also designed to hold that ladder together.
Oh.
So when we start removing the foundation and the things that got us there, then our life begin to crumble.
Yes.
Our life began to crumble. So that was the revelation he shared it with me, and I never stopped serving him, understanding my role as an armor bearer, because it's a life commitment.
It is.
It is a life commitment. It's not a one day a week thing.
Ooh, talk about that.
It's not a one day a week thing. It's not like I just come here Sunday and you good. All right, I'm gone. You know, and